When you look at this game coming up, the Raiders versus the Colts, it's one of those matchups that feels bigger than it probably looks on paper. It's week 5, we're still early, but the way this team responds after that loss to the Bears tells us a lot about who they really are. And to be honest with you, I'm not just looking at the scoreboard, I'm watching how this team handles adversity, how the leaders respond, and if the pieces we keep talking about as bright spots actually show up when it matters. What's up, Raiders fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Raiders. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Raiders. But before we dive deeper into that matchup, let's back up to where the Raiders are right now. 4 games in, you're sitting there and asking, who exactly are the Raiders? What's their identity? And the truth is, we've seen flashes of everything. Flashes of a really tough defense. Flashes of a balanced offense with Ashton Jeanty breaking out. Even flashes of strong special teams play here and there. But we haven't seen it all in the same game. That's the biggest frustration. Let's talk about the Bears game. That was one you simply cannot lose if you're trying to establish yourself as a serious football team. You come back home after a tough stretch, you're playing a bad Chicago team, and instead of making a statement, you fall flat. The defense did its job. The receivers did enough. Ashton ran hard. But Geno Smith? Special teams? That was a collapse. And it wasn't just the loss itself, it was the way it happened. That's what makes it brutal. Because when you watch the tape, and I've gone through the film like a lot of folks covering this team, you see that the defense kept giving them chances. Maxx Crosby, once again, playing like an absolute maniac out there. Adam Butler holding his own. The safeties flying downhill. This is a defense that, if you look across the league, is playing at a really high level. They might not be the 2,000 Ravens, but if you're holding teams under 21 points a week, that's winning football. You should win with that. But the offense hasn't held up its end, and that takes us straight to Geno Smith. 7 interceptions in 4 games. That's not just bad. That's dangerous. That's season-derailing stuff. And what bothers me most isn't just the numbers. It's when those mistakes happen. When the team needs him to be steady, when the defense is holding strong and you've got a chance to seize momentum, Geno has not delivered. Against the Bears, that was his moment to lead. That was his moment to show veteran composure. And instead, it looked like he pressed, tried to do too much, and forced throws that weren't there. Now, I get it. Geno's got a cannon. He's always had the arm to make throws most quarterbacks can't even dream of. But the NFL is full of smart defenders, and you can't just believe your arm will bail you out every time. That's where the frustration comes in. He's not a rookie, he's a veteran. You expect him to understand when to take the shot and when to live to fight another down. Right now, he's not showing that balance. And I'll tell you what, I do think Chip Kelly's play calling has already adjusted because of it. You can see it. Plays that were in the plan early, look that were set up for Geno to attack, they're not coming as often. And that's because Chip doesn't fully trust him not to put the ball in harm's way. And that's a problem. Because once the offensive coordinator is calling a game like he's protecting the quarterback, instead of unleashing the offense, you're playing with one hand tied behind your back. Now, some people have asked the question, should Kenny Pickett see the field? And I'm not saying you bench Geno long term. Let's be clear about that. Geno's your starter. Geno's got the experience. But in a game like the Bears one, I personally would have pulled him. Not to replace him for the season, but to send a message. To say, look, you don't get to keep forcing throws and killing drives and expect us to just ride with it. Sometimes as a leader, you need that jolt. And I think that moment could have helped Geno as much as it could have helped the team. Because the Raiders are too good defensively right now to waste it. Maxx Crosby is in his prime and playing like one of the best defensive players in the world. Patrick Graham has these guys disciplined and tough. That group has earned better support. And the longer this season goes, the more dangerous it becomes if Geno doesn't stabilize. Now, let's swing back to the Colts matchup because this is where it gets interesting. Indianapolis is built to test exactly the things the Raiders do well and the things they struggle with. Jonathan Taylor behind Quenton Nelson is the kind of power football that forces you to be disciplined up front. And when Taylor gets going, the play action opens up. Shane Steichen is so good at marrying the run game with the passing looks, and that's how they hit you with big shots down the field. They've got speed on the perimeter. They've got size at receiver. They've got tight ends who can block and catch. This is a complete offense when it's humming. So, for Patrick Graham's defense, it's another week where the message is simple but hard. Stop the run. Don't let Taylor control the game. If you can bottle him up, you take away the play action, you take away the balance, and you force them into obvious passing downs. That's when Maxx Crosby can tee off. But if Taylor's getting 6 yards a pop and they're living in 2nd and 4, the Colts are going to have their way. On the flip side, the Colts defense is going to make life tough on Geno. Lou Anarumo is one of the best defensive minds in the game. His whole thing is disguising looks, confusing quarterbacks, and preventing big plays. That's a nightmare combination for a quarterback who's already pressing. On 3rd downs, you might see him line up like he's blitzing the house, then drop 8 into coverage. Or he'll show soft zone and then bring pressure. It looks the same before the snap, but it's completely different after. That's going to test Geno's decision-making. And that's where Geno's experience should help. He's seen everything at this point. He's played against these kinds of defenses, but the key is not getting baited. Take the check down. Hit Ashton in the flat. Use Raheem Mostert as a reliable veteran back. Don't try to force something 20 yards downfield into double coverage. If Geno just plays smart football, the Raiders have enough talent to move the ball. But if he plays hero ball, the Colts are going to eat him alive. One thing we also have to keep an eye on is the Raiders' depth. Every injury on this roster hurts more than it should because the depth just isn't there yet. Guys like Charles Grant aren't ready. And you can't just throw them out there and say, take your lumps, when your quarterback and running back are the ones who could pay the price. Darian Porter? He probably deserves more snaps. But in the trenches, you can't rush development. That's the reality of where this team is. Special teams is another area that keeps coming up. And look, it's not just a Raiders problem. With the new NFL rules, a lot of teams are struggling on special teams. But that doesn't make it any less frustrating. Field position matters, momentum matters, and right now, that unit isn't pulling its weight. Tom McMahon is a respected coach, but the execution needs to improve. Big picture though, this is still a winnable game for the Raiders. The Colts are solid, but they're not unbeatable. This isn't the Chiefs or the 49ers. This is a team that, if the Raiders put together a complete game, they can absolutely beat. And the AFC playoff picture is wide open enough that every single one of these games matters. You're not just playing for pride, you're playing to stay in the mix. So, Raiders versus Colts, Week 5. It's not just another game on the schedule. It's a test of leadership, of consistency, of whether this team can take the next step. And by Sunday night, we'll know a lot more about what direction this season is really heading.